Leafs,
NHL,
rumors,
prospects,
banter,
and everything in between.
This is the Shanaclan Podcast
with Hobbs
and
Lugsy.
Welcome back to episode 22 of the Shanaclan Podcast here with Hobson and Lugsy. And we are going to get into a heck of a show here for you. We've got some great topics, some fun guests coming onto the show. Some fun guests, that doesn't make any sense. We've got a great guest coming onto the show, and I'm so excited for you guys to listen and watch and be a part of this with us. And we've got some new additions to the Leafs that we've gotten to finally see. And speaking of new additions, we're bringing in a new segment called the Shanaclan Fan Questions. And we're going to be asking around if you guys have any questions for us to answer, and we're going to do our best to dissect and to delve deep into those questions and give you our best answers possible. And starting it off, we have a question from a relative of mine, a cousin of mine, and she pretty much just asked, ultimate Canadian matchup this season, which teams would make for the most exciting game and why? There's two parts, so I'm just going to go off with the first part. Hobson, what do you think? Which teams would make for the most exciting game and why?
I think if you watched any of the games between Thursday night and Saturday night, Toronto and Winnipeg, hands down.
Yeah.
I think just based on what happened in those games and how there's a bit of a budding rivalry now between the two, we're seeing the Leafs are starting to play a little chippier, and they're starting to throw the body a little bit more, and they're starting to take less and less of the other team's shit when it comes to, spearing Jack Campbell and trying to poke the puck in the crease. Like, I've noticed guys like Wayne Simmons, especially Simmons, he's starting to get a bit of a chippy side to him. And just over these past couple games, you saw TJ Brody throwing some shoves. We even saw Austin Matthews throwing a couple shoves in the crease after he knocked I think it was Mason Appleton knocked over John Tavares and Matthews went after him. And Joe Thornton, we obviously saw his beef with Nikolai Ehlers. It was pretty funny. So I think a second round matchup between Toronto and Winnipeg would be incredible. Just any playoff matchup. I think that's the most exciting one. What about you?
Yeah, you know what? I definitely see the merit to that one. Because it's two powerhouse offensive teams going at each other. But I think the most exciting game would be between the Montreal Canadiens and the Leafs. Because you've got Gallagher, who's an asshole. You've got Josh Anderson, who's an asshole and is big. He doesn't care. Corey Perry is a borderline psychopath on skates, right? So I think that like a series against Montreal would be mayhem. Same with Winnipeg. You can't really go wrong with either teams, but my choice is with Montreal and Toronto. So
That's fair.
The second part of this question, should the Leafs not win the cup this year, what will their legacy be and why?
That's a tough call because, and you know what, this is going to sound like I'm shooting for the absolute bare minimum, and I don't want that to be what I'm sounding like, but unfortunately there's no other really way around it. As much as I think the Leafs got to capitalize on their chance to win the cup this year, because this year is arguably their easiest path that they're going to have.
Yeah.
If they make it past the first round, I won't consider it a failed season, because the only way I'll consider it a failed season is if they get eliminated in the first round, because at that point, that makes what, 5 straight years? Is it 4 or 5? 5 straight years.
No, 4.
Yes, 4. Because it was Washington, then Boston twice.
Boston, Columbus.
Oh, so that's 5 then.
5.
Okay, yeah. So if the Leafs lose in the first round, Columbus wasn't even the first round. It was just the play-in series.
Yeah.
If the Leafs get knocked out in the first round again, I will consider that to be a failed season. And then I will legitimately start questioning what needs to be done to make this team win a fucking playoff round. But otherwise, as much as I do want them to win the cup this year, and I think that would, like I said, that would be their easiest path this year. If they get past the first round, I won't really be raging. It'll be upsetting because I think the Leafs are capable of beating just about every team in this division. We've seen that already. They've had most of their struggles against Ottawa and Vancouver for whatever reason.
Yeah,
but
somehow
that doesn't make
I don't get
any
that.
sense. Neither do I.
That one really confuses me because when you look at the matchups coming up, it's like, okay, they're playing Edmonton, I feel good. Okay, they're playing Winnipeg, I feel good. They're playing Montreal, I feel okay. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, they're playing Ottawa. Okay, panic. So yeah, that's just It's Toronto for you. Just
Yeah.
leave things. Trademark
Exactly.
by Jeremy Pottle.
Yeah, but that's pretty much my answer. Like I think they got to take advantage this year and utilize the fact that they've got the strongest defensive team, they've got the most physical team, just arguably the best team that we've ever seen out of the league. We have, anyways. I'm not counting any of the playoff teams from the early 90s or the early 2000s or even the 60s.
But from 1967 and on, I would confidently say this is probably the most talented and well-balanced team we've ever seen. Toronto has ever seen.
That's fair. Yeah. So yeah, that's my answer. I'd rather, I obviously love to see them win the cup this year, but I don't think it would really tarnish their legacy as long as they move past the first round. That's all I care about. Any
Leaf fans saying, yeah, no, I don't need to see them win the cup.
What about you? What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, like, I kind of agree with that though. Like, it's kind of like the sense of, well, glad to know that we just wasted Joe Thornton and Jason Spezza. Like, cool. Yeah. Thanks, guys. You know, like if I'm on the Leafs right now playing with Joe or Jason, I'd be running through walls to make sure that we win. Yeah. I would do everything possible.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it really comes back to the fact that this is Jumbo's last year too. Like Spezza, you could make the argument that Spezza looks like he hasn't lost a step. I would bring him back next year.
Yeah.
But Joe Thornton, he's not. I think this is his last year. I don't think he's coming back for another year unless the Leafs get like painfully close to winning a cup, kind of like the Sharks did back in 2016.
Oh, yeah.
Was it 2016 or 17? I forget. It was 17, right? They played Nashville the year before. If they come painfully close and Jumbo doesn't get his cup, I could see him returning maybe on league minimum and under the impression that he may not be an everyday player. But I think the way the Leafs are looking at it at this point, this is Jumbo's last chance at a Stanley Cup. And I just don't see the Leafs wanting to waste that playoff run, that last chance for Jumbo to get the hardware. So
yeah, I agree. Big agree. Okay, so now moving on though, we've seen two different Leaf teams pretty much this past week, and we're going to be recapping the last two games because let's face it, there's not a whole lot to recap from Sunday and Tuesday. So the Winnipeg Jets and the Toronto Maple Leafs, they always make it a spectacle to watch. It's always a treat to watch. You're always like, it's always must watch hockey. So Hobson, what do you think, man? Like, what kind of Leafs team did we see on Thursday? Is this what we're going to be seeing in the playoffs?
I think it has to be. And I think the one reason that it will be the team that we see in the playoffs is because we saw the veterans step up. And the veterans, especially the two guys I'm thinking of right now, Joe Thornton and Wayne Simmons, both of those guys were kind of under the microscope a little bit over the past couple of weeks because both of their production had really slowed down. And on top of that, they weren't really making much of an impact outside of the offensive aspect. But I'm pretty sure they're listening to the media and the fans alike because they both completely flipped the switch over these last two games against Winnipeg. Wayne Simmons got into a couple tussles. He was right in the middle of everything. And my favorite clip of all time is watching him just like, I don't even know what he was doing. Pierre-Luc Dubois was on his knees and he just kind of like, he didn't really shove him, but he was kind of like just pushing him, like gliding him, kind of guiding him into the boards and just kind of giving him little cross checks on the back. And that's what I love to see from Wayne Simmons. And then the way that he responded to the media and said that when people were calling the Leafs a dirty team or whatever, because all of a sudden, at the flip of a switch, they go from being this super soft team that doesn't know how to throw the body. And now all of a sudden they're a dirty team. Beyond me. I don't know how to respond to that, but just seeing the way that he responded to the media and how he's saying like, no, we're not going to get pushed around. Like if you're going to try and run us out of the building, we're going to do the same thing. There's that. And then Joe Thornton's picked up a couple of points over the past couple games. And the point of this being that the veterans are starting to step up and they're starting to really prove why they're here on such short-term contracts at such a cheap price. They want to win the Stanley Cup.
Oh yeah.
And just seeing the way that they've responded, it's great that they're finally stepping up. Like it's like we all know that we're pretty safe with Matthews and Marner and Nylander handling most of the offense, but watching the veterans step up and chip in on their own and really, I guess, kind of reinforce the fact that this team isn't going to get pushed around come playoff time. It was really, really settling to see.
Yeah, no, and you can really tell that Joe is like, okay, this might be my final year, and now we're in the home stretch of the season. It's time to get going for the boys.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of people are like, oh, locker room guys are overrated, and it's like, well, we see it right here. Like, this locker room has been reported to be like one of the closest locker rooms Toronto's ever had in years, probably ever.
Yeah.
And then you're adding good people into the team. And that's so Babcockian to say, but like, you get Nick Foligno, who's a high character guy. He's all for the team. Wayne Simmons is all for the team. Jumbo and Jason are all for the team.
Yeah,
So,
and you know what? Watching Nick Foligno come in, just to allude to your point about how he's all for the team, it truly sucks that the Leafs lost Zach Hyman to injury right before Nick Foligno made his debut. But man, watching Nick Foligno on that top line with Matthews and Marner, it just looks like Zach Hyman's out there.
Yeah, it looks natural.
He hasn't done much. Like, he put up the one assist. He assisted on Marner's empty net goal, and I'm not criticizing him by any means because I don't need him. Night. No, he didn't. Foligno
I thought he did.
Nope.
Oh.
No, sir. I don't think he did. I mean, I might be completely tripping balls. I might actually pull up the summary here just to confirm that point or not. But anyways,
yeah.
The Leafs don't need him for offense, but just watching how he's always the first one in the corners and how he was being a little bit feisty towards Pierre-Luc Dubois too, which you'd think would speak volumes about how the two got along when they were in Columbus, especially
or lack thereof, maybe.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, it was. Oh, you know what? You're right. Foligno did get an assist last night. Okay, so I am talking out of my ass clearly.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to cut this in post. I can look like a clown on the air. But yeah, okay, so that just even furthers my point then. Foligno's got 2 points in 2 games, and he's fitting in on that top line, and he looks like, just the way that you see him go into like celebrations after his line scores and seeing the big bear hugs that he gives Marner and Matthews and stuff. It's just, he's if I honestly could have picked one guy to fill that kind of role to add to the Leafs for their playoff run this year, it probably would have been Nick Foligno. So nice. I'm really, really happy that he's on the team now. And I think it's going to really push the fact that they're not going to get walked all over this year. They're not going to take their foot off the gas. I don't think Foligno's going to allow that. So
no, he's been really good defensively too. I've been watching him. Oh man, he's really solid.
The penalty kill looks so much better with Foligno on it. So much better. Like a
lot more structured.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like he's got an active stick in the defensive zone as well. Like he's been breaking up a lot of passes.
Yeah.
It's nice to see that.
It is 100%.
So yeah. I wanted to say though, like Rasmus Sandin, like besides the Blake Wheeler hit, has been looking like he looked really good.
Yeah.
He looked really good.
He did.
And that like that's encouraging to see, like for the future as well. Like if somehow or some reason Morgan Riley walks in free agency or he's traded, I feel confident with Sandin. I feel good about him. He's nice.
Just to allude to that point right there, I actually published an article yesterday for the Hockey Writers on why the emergence of Rasmus Sandin could make Riley expendable this offseason.
No shameless plugs here, Hobson. Pump that.
As if we don't have a shameless plug every single time. Yeah, but anyways, and there's one comparison that I made that actually directly ties to the Leafs because they were involved in it. Look at what the Colorado Avalanche did when they traded Tyson Barrie to Toronto. It was almost the exact same situation. They had a guy who was kind of at the point where at that time, you knew what Barrie was. You knew what you're getting in him. You're getting an offensive defenseman who's got his fallbacks defensively, but he can be the power play quarterback. And you know what you're getting with him. He's a good puck mover. And he had 1 year remaining on his contract, which he obviously spent with the Leafs after he was traded there. And the Colorado Avalanche moved him fresh off of a 59-point season or a 57-point season or whatever it was, knowing that they had Cale Makar ready to come and fill that role. And Rasmus Sandin is obviously not on the same level as Cale Makar. But my point is, if you've got Riley, Jake Muzzin, and Travis Dermott up the left side of the defensive core, you're obviously not trading Jake Muzzin because Muzzin's locked in for another 4 years and he fills a key role on this team. You're not getting rid of Muzzin. And while I would say that Travis Dermott is expendable, if you trade him and keep both Riley and Muzzin, what's that doing for Sandin? He's going to play 10, 11, 12 minutes a night? He's going to have to pretty much wait out the next 4 years on the bottom pairing.
Yeah.
So
nothing worthwhile.
And you know what? I think the Leafs are kind of at a point now where they know what they have in Riley. They know that he's good offensively, but I don't know what it is, man. I think it may have took him being paired with a defenseman who's actually good defensively to kind of expose how bad he can be defensively.
Yeah.
Because even last night I guess I don't know when this is going to be uploaded, so I'm not even going to try and use date terminology like that, but
it's okay.
Even during Saturday's game against Winnipeg, that first goal that Nikolai Ehlers scored should have been a 2-on-2. Brody was covering whoever got the assist. I think it may Blake Wheeler or Mark Scheifele. Or no, it was Pierre-Luc Dubois, I think. But either way, Brody was covering the guy with the puck. Ehlers was bursting in on the other side, and Riley went to cover the same guy that Brody already had, leaving Ehlers wide open and executing the 2-on-1. So it's just little things like that where it's like, okay, like obviously if the Leafs get rid of Riley, it's going to be a sad day because at this point he's the longest serving Leaf, and I'm sure he's on good terms with pretty much everybody in the dressing room. He's been in a leadership role ever since Matthews and Marner got into the league, but I just don't see another way around this. And when you look at a couple of guys that I plugged in the article that you could use to compare Riley's next contract to, say Oliver Ekman-Larsson, for example. He's making just over $8 million. Jared Spurgeon making just over $7 million. Chris Letang is making just over $7 million. So like Riley had listen to me. Riley had 72 points 2 years ago. So it's not unrealistic to suggest that he could ask for that.
He can ask for it, but will he get it?
On the open market, I think he might, man. On the open market, I think he might.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Okay.
If you look at guys like that, you can easily look at Jared Spurgeon or Oliver Ekman-Larsson and make an argument that they're not worth $7 or $8 million.
Now Spurgeon's actually good though.
Okay. Either way. So Oliver Ekman-Larsson then, for example, you can make the argument he's not worth over $8 million, but if he got $8 million, there's no reason Riley can't ask for it. And that's a typical mistake that GMs make in free agency. Quite often they will pay a guy for what he's done rather than what they expect him to do at this new dollar value. Look at Tyler Myers and
Vanderlaan right there.
Tyler Myers in Vancouver. Perfect example of that. He's making just over $6 million a year for the next 4 or 5 years.
Hobson, you're saying that they paid him for his Calder Trophy season then?
I guess so. I mean, I think Myers may not have been the best comparison because I feel like a lot of the reason he got signed to that value is because he's 6'8", but
it is huge. Yeah.
Honestly, but the point stands. GMs will often overpay for guys because of what they've done. And it's not unrealistic to think, okay, Morgan Riley was the top defenseman on the Leafs for the better part of 5 years, put up 72 points 2 years ago. When he's not putting up 72 points, he's good for, around 60 points, kind of that ballpark. I think teams could pay that up for him. And I don't think that's the kind of money that the Leafs will be interested in giving to Morgan Riley. So, I think if you can trade him and get a good return for him this summer and then kind of groom Rasmus Sandin into that second pairing role and let him quarterback the power play and let him kind of like play his offense, like play his style of game that he's comfortable with, quarterback the power play, and also let him develop defensively in that role. And also do it while saving money because they're not going to have to worry about re-signing Rasmus Sandin to long-term for a while. So yeah. I don't see there really being another way around this. And I hate to say it because, like I said, I'm a fan of Morgan Riley and it's going to be sad to see him go, but I don't know. That's just my thought on it. I don't know how else you're going to get Rasmus Sandin into a role where you can actually develop him into what he can be.
The issue I have with Riley making that $8 million contract is that no team besides rebuilding teams can afford that. And he's also going to be 27, I think, when he's a UFA, 27 or 28. Mm-hmm. So he's going to be like kind of in his prime, kind of like he's not old. So does he want to spend those years rebuilding or does he want to be in a competitive environment? Because if he stays with Toronto by taking a hometown discount, he's going to continue to be playing in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But if he wants that payday, he's going to be on a rebuilding team.
It might be the payday. And I think the other thing about that point is that it doesn't necessarily have to be a team that's going to spend the next 3-4 years in a rebuild. It could be a team that's kind of looking for a guy like Riley to boost their rebuild and kind of accelerate it a little bit.
Buffalo.
Oh, no, Buffalo is a good 5 years away from. They're 5 years away from being 5 years away at this point.
Well,
but honestly, even a team like this is going to sound like a bit of a hot take, but even a team like the Detroit Red Wings, Detroit is bad this year. They just traded for
getting outshot 50 million to 5.
That was pretty hilarious, wasn't it? Let's talk about, yeah. What I remember checking that score, Dallas outshooting Detroit 38-4, and they were down 1-0. And I was like, are you serious? Like,
and who better to be in goalie than Jonathan Bernier?
Bernier, you know what? Credit to him, man. That was a good start. We gave him a lot of shit when he was in Toronto, but that was a good start for him. But my point is, you know, it's not going to be long. Like, Detroit's at the bottom of the league now, but it's not going to be long before they're kind of at the stage that the 2016-17 Leafs were at. They've got Moritz Seider coming up. They've got Lucas Raymond coming up. Philip Zadina's eventually going to figure it out. Like, now they've got Jacob Vrana, who I honestly think could sign there long-term. I think he could be a pivotal part of Detroit's future core. So who knows? It's really tough to make that call, but they've got the cap space. Who knows? Maybe they could push for Morgan Rielly in the offseason.
Yeah. So getting back to the Winnipeg game, last night, Mark Scheifele got benched for 17 minutes. Mm-hmm. Like, that is
quite a bit for Scheifele.
Like, apparently for their number one centerman, right?
Now, the one thing I have to say about that is that it definitely worked because Mark Scheifele came out flying in the third period. I guess I don't know what the exact reason was. Like, Paul Maurice, when he speaks to the media, he's always a little bit cryptic in the way that he kind of addresses things that reporters ask him. So he didn't come out right and say, "Oh, Mark Scheifele, he had a bad game, so we benched him." He was just kind of like, "Oh, I don't remember what the exact quote was. Hold on, I'm gonna find it right now because it was pretty cryptic."
Yeah.
Fill the air, Mark, while I search this up.
Here's the new segment with Lugsy, Late Night with Lugsy, where I talk about absolutely nothing because I have no idea what to talk about. In yesterday's news, my cat got stuck in a tree.
Here we go. All right, here we go. Here's
okay, you've got it now.
Late Night with Lugsy. He says at 2:25 p.m.
Yep.
So anyways, what Paul Maurice said was this: we have some things that we value as a group. Mark's a real competitive guy, and that gets the best of him sometimes, I think. We just need to adhere to our core values. So he basically said we needed more from our number one center, and it worked. Yeah. He benched him for the better part of the second period. He came out flying in the third period. So
and you don't
do anything
see
offensively, but yeah.
Well, yeah, and then you don't see Paul yelling at him like Torts with PLD, right?
Yeah, Dubois. That's one of my favorite clips. He looked like it's times like that where I really wish that there were a couple of extra mics set up on the bench.
Oh,
man. Just so you could hear. And another situation I would like that applied to is have you seen penalty the video box. Yes, the penalty box. Have you seen the clip of Joe Thornton screaming at Nikolai Ehlers?
I didn't. Ehlers was just sitting in the box.
Ehlers was beaking back at him for a little bit, and then he eventually decided, fuck it. And he just sat back and just kind of took it all in. What a random two players to go at it, though, eh? Joe Thornton and Nick Ehlers.
Weird. Yeah.
I think it all started with the Ehlers gave him a little bit of a spear in the groin, which I feel like is an unspoken rule among guys. You don't hit guys there. It's just not something you do.
No.
So I think Thornton was pissed off about that, and then it just kept stemming. And my favorite video clip of the entire night was when it was like 5 minutes after that happened and they were back in the Leafs zone. And Thornton goes up to Ehlers and gives him a cross check, and he breaks his stick on the cross check, then skates back to the Leafs bench, grabs a new stick, goes back and cross checks him again. It's just shit like that where I have a really hard time getting mad at Jumbo Joe. Like he's got there are times when he looks like he looks like he's, his age is catching up to him a little bit and maybe he shouldn't be out there as much as he is, but I will never get mad at Jumbo Joe for anything just because of things like that. It's like we've got a living legend playing for our team this year. So
yeah, no, that's true. Cause like my first thought about that penalty was like, that's a bit of a rookie penalty there, Joe.
Oh, it was. And you know what?
Probably shouldn't do that.
You know what, though? It worked. The Leafs killed off that penalty. So I'm okay with it. And same thing with the Wayne Simmons penalty from the other night where he kind of like just guided Dubois into the boards and gave him a couple shoves along the way. Like, I think I'm okay with taking those penalties as long as they don't come at crucial times and the penalty kill can step up and get the job done. So
yeah. So I all in all, I probably I rate those two Leaf games out of a 10, probably a solid 9 out of 10.
I would say, okay, here's what I would do. I would probably give I'd give Thursday night an 8, and I would give last night a 10. I think last night's game was probably, so yeah, that lines up perfectly with what you said. It averages out to a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
But yeah,
like that first game though, they jumped out to the 2-0 lead, and it was like, are we gonna steamroll Winnipeg? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, 2 minutes later, it's 2-2, and it was like, there it is. There's Toronto.
We all know and love.
But
yeah, I think overall that game on Saturday night was without a doubt, I think, one of the best games I've watched all season. Just because like it wasn't the most dominant win ever. Like it was pretty even game in the first period. The Leafs didn't really take over until the second, but just between the guys that scored and between the physicality and the chippiness and the amount of shoving and pushing and shoving that was going on, it was just it was a great game all around. I can't think of too many negative things to say about it.
Yeah. So then one more point. I just wanted to ask you, with this game, do we feel safe about Jack starting game 1 in the playoffs? Like if need be?
I've stuck to this notion ever since Jack Campbell started going on his little tear, and I'm not going to change my mind anytime soon. When we get to that point, when we're heading into game 1 and Brass has to make a decision of who starts game 1, I think you got to go with whoever's playing better. So
fair.
If Jack Campbell, and I don't know when Freddie Anderson's supposed to come back yet.
Yeah, no one does.
No, he's in the shadow realm as of now, I'm pretty sure. But I think if you get to that point and Jack Campbell is playing well, but Freddie's ready, then I think you got to start Jack Campbell, because you don't want to throw a guy fresh off a groin injury or whatever it was into probably one of the most
fire and flames.
Exactly. The game 1 of the playoffs this year. Like, I think you just got to go with whoever's playing better. And if Jack's slumping a little bit heading into the final couple games and Freddie's good to go, then you start Freddie. So
yeah,
either way, I think you just got to go with the hotter goalie. I don't think there's really any other way around it. You don't start Jack just because just because he had a good streak a while ago, and you don't start Freddie because you owe it to him. I think you just got to start whichever goalie's playing better at the time.
Yeah, no, and the one thing I'll stand by though is you shouldn't lose your job to injury, right?
No, exactly.
So I trust what Keefe will do, what he will decide with. So,
I think he's just going to go with the goalie that gives him the best chance to win. Yeah.
Honestly, that's how it should be. So I feel good with Jack. TBH, I feel better with Jack, but I also feel good with Fred. So, but Fred needs to be healthy. He can't beat around the bush this time. So, yeah, I feel good about it, man.
Me too.
Next game's against Montreal, so we'll see how that goes.
That'll be fun. Now it'll be on Wednesday. All right, I think we're just about ready to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we are going to be bringing on our guest, Nick Barden. He is a Marlies beat reporter for the Leafs Nation, and he's got quite the story about a very peculiar jersey that he owns that we'd like to get him to spill the beans on. So we'll be right back, and we'll talk to Nick when we get back.
Leafs,
NHL,
rumors,
prospects,
banter,
and everything in between.
This is the Shanaclan Podcast
with Hobbs
and Lugsy.
Welcome back. You are listening to episode 22 of the Shanaclan Podcast. And today on the show, we are joined by Marlie's beat reporter for the Leafs Nation, as well as who I'd imagine is probably the only Leafs fan on the planet to own a Martin Marincin jersey, Nick Barden. Pleasure to have you on the show, Nick.
Thanks for having me. I'm going to move this.
There we go. Awesome. There's the Marty Marincin jersey. I love that. You know, like when I say you're probably the only fan to own a Martin Marincin jersey, I say probably the only one to own one, but you full on have it hanging on your wall. Like, how many people out there own a jersey like that? I
was going to say, sorry, there's one person who owns another Martin Marincin jersey, and I don't know if you guys know him. His name's Dan on Twitter. He's 265 kilometers.
Oh, him. Yeah.
He's got a reverse retro one. He got a reverse retro.
That's incredible. Did he buy it? Did he buy it after you got yours, or?
Yeah, he bought it because he likes to take like old Marlies players and get jerseys of them. Okay. So that's why he got that one.
I would still, nice. if I were you, I would still call you a trend. I'd still call myself a trendsetter though.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. We need more Martin Marincin supporters.
Yeah. My dream one day is to have a packed Scotiabank Arena all with Marty Marincin jerseys, even if he's not on the team anymore.
Gonna get Marlie's legend Jeremy Bracco jersey.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
my gosh.
All right. So for those that didn't, I guess, tune in back, we actually tried to get Nick on the show almost over a year ago at this point. It was right before COVID hit. And for our 6 listeners that aren't aware, we basically brought Nick onto the show, and we got about halfway through the interview. And halfway through, I think this was before we even brought Nick on, the NBA announced that they postponed the rest of their season. And then midway through our interview with Nick, we were recording at the school, and we got kicked out because there was a fire alarm that went off. And we didn't hear the fire alarm, but I remember as we were interviewing you, Nick, I heard like this ever so quiet, faint beeping outside of the studio, and it's soundproof, so I could barely hear anything. So then I cut for a break, I remember, and I stepped outside, and it was a full-on fire alarm. So I remember going back into the studio, and I was like, so we can't be in the studio right now, so we're going to have to do this another time. And then a couple days later, the world shut down, and here we are 13 months later making things right. So this is definitely the longest makeup episode that we've ever had to put off, but we're glad to be finally getting to shoot the shit and do this with you properly.
Yeah. Was there a fire that day?
There was, yeah. It was an electrical fire, but it was on the other side of the school, so we weren't really in any danger.
Damn it.
Yeah. I know it would have been a great story. It's like we had to like run out of the school and like hurtle over like breaking fires everywhere and stuff and like
falling lockers and stuff.
Oh man.
And then come back in an hour later and record the podcast.
Yeah, we've got like 2nd-degree burns up and down our arms and stuff, and we're just like, all right, do it for the pod. All right, so before we get into the Marlies, we're going to get your thoughts on the Leafs and a couple different things. But first off, I just want you to tell us the story about how that whole Marty Marincin jersey situation played out. So what, from start to finish, what happened?
Wow, it's been a long time.
It's been a while
since. So I don't even think I've explained this story in almost a year. But anyways, Martin Marincin, the Leafs were facing the Vancouver Canucks. And Martin Marincin dumped the puck in, hit it off the crossbar, came back, beat Thatcher Demko. And I was like, all right, it's time to tweet 500 retweets to get and I'll buy a Martin Marincin jersey. And I did that. And it caught a little bit of traction. A few weeks before that, I know I did one on Rasmus Sandin because at that point of the season, like I really liked him. And I really wanted a jersey that had his name on it. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. That one didn't work. And then when Martin Marincin did it, it was catching a little bit of traction. And I remember sitting on the couch, and I think I had like 1 or 2 beers at this point. And I was sitting there laughing. And she's like, what's so funny? I'm like, oh, nothing. And she's like, seriously, what's so funny? And I'm like, well, I might have to buy a jersey. And she's like, oh no. And then I showed her, and it was at like, I think 200 retweets at that point. And it just kept going. My phone just kept vibrating and vibrating and vibrating. And I was just sitting there. It was so funny because I've never had my phone ever do that before. It's like, it's so weird when it keeps on going. Like, I don't know how beat writers or like Chris Johnson or Elliot Friedman, I'm sure they have their notifications turned off, but like it was just vibrating and vibrating and vibrating. And then I remember, I think I was coming down to record a video, but I went upstairs, I don't know where I was. And I saw Adam Wilde retweet it, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
I was going to say, once that happened, it was like, it was over. Like a few, I think it was like 2 or 3 minutes later, it hit 500.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you never underestimate the power of the internet when it comes to things like that. I'm glad you confirmed that, because I was gonna bring that up. It was Adam Wilde that really pushed you over the edge, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if Steve did too. I don't know if he retweeted. I don't think so. But
you got a reply from Myrtle later on, didn't you?
Yeah, I think that's when I bought it, when I tweeted that tweet.
Yeah,
that tweet is still, like, the one of me holding up the Marincin jersey. It's still the biggest tweet I've ever had.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
Because
like
you got your girlfriend to like vlog the whole thing too, right? Like you got her to film you going in and buying it and everything.
Yeah. So what happened there was, I knew going into it that I don't like vlogging. I never have. I did it on the road trip that we went on in September and October. Like, we went to BC and back, and I'm like, I'm going to vlog it. And like it was okay. Like we were out in like the wilderness. There was nobody around, so I was totally fine doing it. But once you get into a setting with people, it's a whole different ball game. Like
Yeah.
I don't know why I don't like it, but I remember like last March, I was like, oh, it's gonna be easy. Like we were on the GO train, I think. I think we took the GO train downtown. And I was like, oh, it's just gonna be so easy. We'll just go in and like I'll just record with my camera. I won't talk to the camera like Casey Neistat or any of those people did. I'll just sit there and just record myself typing on the thing. And I was like, I got there and I'm like, no, I can't do that. Like I'm not, I got in there and I was so afraid of just like, I didn't even want to ask someone if I could buy this Martin Marincin jersey. I was like, I'm afraid people were going to be like, what are you doing? So we ended up going into Real Sports at Scotiabank Arena, and they actually couldn't make the jersey because they didn't have the letters,
Oh, wow.
and that was a pain. They're like, oh, you actually can like what you do there is you like type it in on a screen and you'll get a receipt, and then I don't know if you have to wait for it. I'm pretty sure you had to wait a few days and then come back. And I was like, screw that. I came down here to get a jersey. I told people I was getting the jersey, so I'm getting the jersey.
Mhm.
So then we went across the street to Sport Check, I think, and we found a jersey, a blank one, and a guy put it on for us. He was super nice, and he's like, "Why are you getting a Martin Marincin jersey?" And I was like, "Well,
Oh.
I just told him the story," and he's like,
Yeah.
he was laughing, and I was like, "You probably don't get many of those." He's like, "Actually, I've done a few." So I mean, I don't know if it's friends or family, because if like a friend of Martin Marincin's or family member was there, you'd think the Leafs would like hook them up or something with the one.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know who's out there buying Martin Marincin jerseys other than me,
Oh, that's
but I
great.
mean, it's awesome.
That is awesome. And you know what? I think you nailed the picture perfectly too. The picture of you standing, you had the whole backdrop of Scotiabank Arena behind you and everything. Like you executed that whole situation perfectly.
Yeah, we took a bunch of pictures, like inside and outside the arena.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got them on my camera and I was like, okay, these are nice, but like I want to just post it now because we had a GO train ride on the way home. Like it killed time because the reactions and everything that came, like it really just wasted a lot of time on the GO train home, just seeing people and like them reacting to it. So
Yeah.
that was nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would have been funny being the guy that was selling you the jersey, and you come in and you ask to get some letters put on the back, and he's probably thinking, okay, do you want Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, and then there's Marty Marincin actually.
Yeah,
That is awesome.
I mean, it was weird to say the least. Like it was really cool, and I still am so upset because I haven't been able to wear it to like a Leafs game or Maple Leaf Square, because that would have been so fun. Like people are just looking at you like, what the heck are you wearing on your back? Like, why do you have that on? And it'd just be cool to tell the story, but we'll have to wait for that. Hopefully he's still in the team by the time that happens.
Well, if trends keep up based on the way that they've gone over the past 5 years, he'll be back on a 1-year deal after this year at least.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't know. I don't think so though.
You know what though? If I can, like, as perfect as this situation has played out for you, I think the one last thing that needs to happen is you need a picture with Marty Marincin.
See, like that would be a good thing, but like in reality, like when I started my podcast back in August, I emailed his agent because I was like, okay, you know what? It would be cool to have Martin Marincin be the intro to my podcast and just be like, hi, I'm Martin Marincin and you're listening to Nick Talk.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
But I emailed him, the agent got back to me and he's like, I've sent it over to him and he'll let me know whenever if he wants to do it or not. Like it was literally like, it's a 2-second thing. It's a voice note. You could have done in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I never got anything back. I emailed again and I was like, hey, just following up, nothing. So I don't think Martin Marincin wants to do any intro to my podcast. But I don't even know if he knows who I am at this point. I doubt it.
Yeah, it's kind of tough when you get into that area because when the agent's kind of acting as the mailman between the two of you, it's kind of hard to gauge what Marincin's what his interest level actually is. But at the very least, I hope that you guys get to meet each other someday because that's just like that'd be the Cinderella story we're all hoping for.
Yeah, him
Yeah.
getting to sign your jersey as well.
Oh man.
Get the whole team to sign my jersey.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, it's a slippery
Yeah.
slope. It's a slippery slope. It starts with Marincin and then it spills out into the rest of the team signing your jersey.
One thing I will say, I don't know if I explained it last year.
Yeah.
My girlfriend and I went to a game a few weeks before this ended up happening, and we don't have these seats. We got these seats from StubHub or Ticketmaster, and they're right at the top where I shouldn't even be explaining this because these are like coveted seats. I don't want anyone ever knowing how to buy these, but they're right beside the media gallery.
Okay.
And like where Kyle Dubas, like we went and watched this game. You have an amazing view of the game. And I'm just sitting there. I'm watching, like I'm seeing like all the hockey reporters go by, Kristen Stilton, Mike Zeisberger, a few other people. And I'm like, damn, like this is sweet. Like now I know where the media people are and where they go. So
Wow.
what ended up happening is Kyle Dubas walks by because I guess that's where his box is as well. So he walked by and I'm like, oh my God, that's Kyle Dubas. And I'm like, holy shit. And then Roberto Luongo walks by and they're facing Florida. So I understand why he's there. And that was a game last season. I don't know if you guys remember, but Freddie Anderson got injured in it, I think.
I'm trying to remember which game that would have been. I remember one game against Florida last year, and it was the one where they lost like 8-4 or something stupid like that. I don't think that's the one I'm thinking of. I think that one was in Florida.
I think they did lose though, but anyways.
Right.
So he was there. And then Joe Sakic walks by too. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? Like, where are these people coming from?
Then one by one, you just see Sidney Crosby, Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux.
But at the end of it, I don't know if you guys know Scotiabank Arena well or not, but you can go down all the way to the basement part, and that's like where the platinum people get to go, and there's like a few bars down there, and that's where the Leafs dressing room is and everything. So I'm walking down, and when you go down the stairs, right like to the entrance of the platinum place, that's where the Leafs door is to come out and come in to leave and go down to the parking garage.
Right.
So I actually saw Martin Marincin leave, and they're like, bye Marv, have a good road trip. And I'm like,
oh, you're so close.
Marv, come here, Marv.
So it's just
there's fans want me signed jersey.
It's so weird, like thinking about that and me seeing him like a month or like a few weeks before it happening. But
yeah, because I guess you wouldn't have had the story to really push at that point. I feel like that would have been a lot more exciting had you already bought the jersey and you were wearing it and he's there.
You know what? I'd probably still be way too nervous to go up to him and be like, "Hey, I have your jersey on. Come sign it for me."
I feel like he'd be flattered if he did that though, because how many people ask him to sign a jersey? Do you think
he'd probably be really freaked out?
Yeah, he's never had to experience something like that before. Just like whoa.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but it's just weird. Like I don't know. I'm trying to think about where I'm going with this, but it's weird to see people like hockey people in real life, like Joe Sakic and Roberto Luongo, because it's like you watch them on TV and they're like bigger than, I don't want to say life itself, but like you watch them and you're just like, whoa, like they're good hockey players. And then you see them in person and you're like, whoa, they're real people. But I mean, I don't know. It was weird to have that a few weeks before, but I mean,
it's funny how things come together.
Yeah.
Wow.
That Platinum Club is definitely a good place to see some pretty notable personnel and players. I've been down there a couple times. I got a picture with Brendan Shanahan once in the club. It was pretty cool.
In the club, like you went to a club and
it was like the Platinum Lounge, whatever you call it. My dad got some crazy tickets the one time. It was for my birthday a couple years ago, but it was the one where like you go out and it's basically like the lounge down there where all the rich people go.
Yeah,
pounding back shots with Shanny.
No, I was not quite. I was only like 15 at that point, so I'm not sure I'd say pounding back shots. But
There was
Shots
one
of
thing I
apple
will.
juice.
There's a story that I have. It's a guy that I don't know if you guys know him. He's on Twitter. He has his own YouTube channel. His name's Stephen Brown.
Downtown Stephen Brown. I know
Yeah.
that guy. Yeah.
So we ended up going to school. Like I went to school with him.
Okay.
So one day we went down there. We had to film something for a project. It was the home opener when John Tavares was coming in for his first ever game.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And we were trying to figure out where we could go. And he was interviewing people for a radio story. So we were just walking around outside and they're like, hey, like on the broadcast, like do this thing on Real Sports. Like, I think it was their Facebook or just the app. And it was like, you could win tickets to the home opener. So I was like standing outside. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm just going to do this and see what happens. And we ended up winning tickets and we had like lower bowl seats and it was like $300 a ticket. So we ended up winning like $600.
Holy
And
shit.
He was
That is
like,
awesome.
It was really cool. And Steven was super nice. It was so funny. He's like, if you want, just tell your girlfriend to come downtown right now and just, she can go with you. I don't need to come with you. I'm like, you're literally here with me. Like, and you're a Leafs fan. Like,
Yeah.
like my girlfriend would enjoy it, but not as much as you would sitting here. So
Yeah.
we ended up getting to go and we got like, they have the little scarves. I don't know what it is now, but they have the scarf. So we got to see John Tavares score his first goal. And funny enough, back when I used to work at Walmart, I know this guy and he does like sort of like cosplay stuff. Like he went to Maple Leaf Square that one day and he wore Dragon Ball Z stuff. And he ended up getting to sit in between the benches in those two lottery seats.
Oh my
with him and his brother
Where
in the same game. So I knew
wearing
I
the
knew
cosplay?
he was like he
Oh
was
my
wearing
God.
Dragon Ball Z stuff.
That's awesome.
So I texted him like just before because I knew he was in Maple Leaf Square and I was kind of like bragging. I'm like, oh, it's gonna suck for you because you have to watch the game from outside. We just won tickets. And then I'm sitting there and I look in between the benches and there's two guys in Dragon Ball Z stuff. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Oh man, they just completely one-upped you there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's still awesome though. How long would that have been before the game when you guys won the tickets? Like what time was it when you guys were out there?
I think it was, I'd say around like 6.
Really?
And then-
oh my God.
Yeah. So there was a lot of people in Maple Leaf Square and then
Yeah.
it was like a scratch thing. You scratch it off
Mm-hmm.
on like an app. And I scratched it and it was like winner. And I'm like, this can't be real. Like I don't win these things ever in my life. And I was like, where the hell do I go? Like I won this thing and like, what do I do? So we ended up going to Real Sports and showing somebody there. I think one of the hostess, I think, that I won, and they ended up giving me the tickets. And I remember that day was really, really windy. And I was holding on to those tickets for dear life.
Oh my God.
Like,
Could you imagine?
and I was so afraid that somebody was just going to walk by and just take them right out of my hand. Because they're in an envelope. And I was like, I need to hold on to these for my life.
Yeah. The thought of that just makes me cringe. Just I always battle the same thing. If I'm ever holding something like a pair of tickets or something valuable, I'm always terrified that I'm going to drop one of them and it's going to get swept in the wind and that's going to be the end of it.
Yeah,
So,
I've always like I don't know why, but like I do enjoy getting like real tickets just to have them as like a memory's sake.
mhm.
But at the same time, like I don't like walking around with tickets because that's the only way you're getting into the arena. And just being able to have it on your phone is so much better.
Oh yeah,
So
exactly.
at one point it's cool to have them, and another point it's like you need to protect these with your life or you won't be able to get in.
Yeah, I always like holding on to ticket stubs like that just to remember the occasion. But at the same time, I am also a notoriously clumsy person. So I don't often trust. If I'm ever going to a game with someone and we have paper tickets, I almost always make them hold on to them, no matter who it is, because I trust almost anybody else over myself.
Yeah, it's really scary. I don't like it.
No, neither do I. So We touched on the Marincin start. Well, definitely didn't just touch on it. We dove right into it. So next thing I want to ask you about, how'd you get the job covering the Marlies, and just how's the experience been so far? I mean, this is your first legitimate sports media job, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call it like a job. I mean, I really don't. I don't get paid much for it. I don't even know if I should be saying that, but I don't know. What happened was, like, ever since I got at the Leafs Nation, and even while I was at Editor and Leaf, I was trying to cover the Toronto
Editor and
Marlies.
leave.
Yeah, we're gonna forget about that memory
Oh
now.
boy. Yep.
But anyways, what I was just I asked that Editor and Leaf. I was like, I want to cover the team. I'm like, it's you're literally a Leafs blog, and I knew the Leafs Nation was doing it. I think at the time it was Mike Stevens. Oh, he was actually covering for Editor and Leaf, should I say. And then he left, and I was like, okay, this could be my chance. But then they were like, no, you can't cover them because you're not a site, whatever it is. I think editor, I don't know. So I was like, I was bummed because I was actually already in contact with the Marlies PR people.
Wow.
And like, they're like, send me like your editor's thing. So it was kind of hard that I couldn't do it. And then I got to the Leafs Nation, and I was like, I specified to John Steitzer, who's the managing editor, I'm like, I want to cover them. Like that's something I tried to do before, and it's something that I really love doing, and that's like my dream job, is like to cover a hockey team. So I mean, I told him that, and like the Marlies didn't start until February. So I joined in July. So it was a long time. I mean, there wasn't really much going on other than the Leafs playoff series and stuff. And then there was that long break. So, I mean, I tried writing Marley's stuff a little bit, didn't really do much. And then I started really getting into like the graphics.
Yeah.
And like making that stuff for the Leafs Nation.
Yeah, man, you do
So
a really good job. I like those
Thank
graphics a
you.
lot.
Yeah.
I have a Joe Thornton one sitting.
I know. I saw that tweet
waiting.
yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah. It's
Sorry,
right
Mark.
here.
Shut up,
right
okay? Shut up.
It's right in
Shut
front
up.
of my face, and I'm
Oh,
seeing
man.
it right now.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. And it's what? It's for Jumbo's next goal or points? I forget.
No, 1,100 assists.
Oh, it's next assist. Okay, so I didn't even hit the assist. It's his next assist. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I know you've been hyping it up on Twitter, so I'm looking forward to see what you've got planned for that one.
Doesn't get
Yeah,
another
but-
assist for the rest of the season.
Oof. Mark,
Yeah,
don't
you know what?
say that, Mark.
I
Come
was
on.
begging last night, and I'm like, come on, get an assist. And then he scores a goal. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah. Oh man, and you know what? But that's just like one of the most intoxicating parts, I think, because I'd like to think we're all in a pretty similar position based on what we want to do in life. Like we're all trying to get into the broadcasting or sport media industry. And I'd imagine it would have been a pretty cool experience, even if it's, your first sort of entry level job in the industry, to get to sit down in a press conference with a bunch of people around you who are in the industry as well and actually get to speak to players. I feel like that'd be a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, but going back to it, so what happened was I did the graphics, and John knew that I wanted to do it, and eventually, like before the Marlies started, I was like, hey, like you should just, I don't think I said you should email them. I was just like, maybe ask them and see what their plans are for this season. So he did, and he ended up getting 2 people credentialed. So me and another girl named Marsha.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's us 2 doing it, and then yeah, I mean the rest is history. I don't.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, I know the Marlies have been shut down because of COVID for a while. So have you had any sort of contact with the team since they got shut down, or like what's going on there as of now?
Zero, nothing.
Zero,
I was thinking about, like, it's such a hard situation. Like, I have one story that I've had on like sort of the back burner for a long time with a player, and I messaged him about interviewing some of his family, and he was like, yeah, sure, just let me talk to them and see. And then the next day, the day after, COVID hit the team. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
I just don't think, like, personally, it would be a good thing to message him and be like, hey, I still want to do this
No.
story when they're having that breakout, or I don't know. I don't know the instances. I know Chris Johnston said a few weeks ago, back when it started, that there was one player who was, I think, who had it. But
Mhm.
like, I don't want to go down that road of trying to get a story from a
Yeah,
player
no.
who's, and then like, even what if it was him who had it? Like,
Yeah,
so really,
it's a tough situation, and I think honestly, if you look back at how the Canucks addressed the media after they had their COVID outbreak, and you watch that interview with JT Miller, and he looked defeated. It's a pretty touchy subject if you're involved with an outbreak like that. So I understand where you're coming from for sure.
yeah. And
Nick,
I
are
was
we
just,
allowed to hear what the story's about? About which
no,
player?
no. I mean, it's like, it's just a story about a player. I mean, I don't know if you guys have followed the Marlies a lot this season,
Fair
but
amount.
there are, I mean, you can try and guess one player each if you want to guess. I will say this. It's a player that has stood out a lot this season,
Okay.
and it's not somebody that you might think it might be. So if you're thinking of somebody, try and think again.
Ooh. All right. I was pretty confident of my guess, but I'm kind of reconsidering now. Mark, you can go. If we're guessing, you can go first, Mark, because
we're gonna
Yeah,
make a guess. All right. My pick would be Timothy Liljegren.
No, just like I said,
Yeah,
guess
you're not gonna
somebody.
say no. Yeah, you're just gonna say word salad like Lou, eh?
Okay. You know what?
If you guys get it, if you guys were to get it right, I'd say yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh,
But I
okay.
told you not to pick the player that you thought who would be. It would be somebody else who stands
Come
out.
on, Mark. Listen
Fair.
to the rules
on.
of the game, man.
Okay.
You can get one more guess.
Yeah. Well, since Mark has listened now, well, knows the rules of the game, you can get one more guess.
Hobson,
So
are you gonna? No, Hobson, you go now.
No. Okay, fine. I'm actually just gonna stick to my gut with this one. Rich Clune.
No,
No. Okay.
no.
Okay.
It was a
Okay,
good
so
try.
one
you
more.
know what?
One more guess, or
Yeah. You go, and then I'll tell you about my feelings about Rich Clune.
I'm gonna say Kali Kosala.
No, I mean,
Okay.
he's a good guy because it's interesting for him because he's like pretty good in the AHL, and I'd like to see him in the NHL. And then he has some inconsistencies at sometimes, but I mean, I like him.
Now, sorry, go for it. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
I was just gonna say, if you want me to talk about the Rich Clune thing, I will.
I was just gonna say that I've got a question that kind of tees up Rich Clune. So I was actually just going to ask you about him. Of all the guys that have come in and out of the Leafs organization, Clune's been there as long as I can remember, despite not actually having played for the Leafs since 2015-16. So what does that mean to the Marlies, and like what does it mean having a guy like him, especially around the younger guys on the team, just having his presence?
He's a beast. I will say that. I mean, I don't know, like, just hearing about like some of the stories that the players have said about him, and I wanted to do a story earlier in the season with him and like asking and just doing a one-on-one with him and asking about, like, because his documentary came out last summer, and it like, I watched that documentary, and it was really strong and powerful in the ways that he had to deal with stuff. But so I was like, okay, this would be a cool guy. I know he's a nice person. I'm sure he'd be willing to do it. And I talked to a few people, and they're like, yeah, he should be able to be fine with it. So I contacted the Marlies PR people, and I was like, hey, like, I want to do this story on Rich Clune. Then a few days later, he became the captain.
Oh, that's
So
perfect.
I mean, it was, but I followed up, and I was like I never got a response about Rich Clune.
Oh, okay.
They were like, well, since he's captain, there was a lot of people trying to interview him and get one-on-ones. So they just allowed him to come to the media. Like, they just said, like, just go to the media after this game or whatever. So then, like, just because there was so many people trying to get interviews with him, that they'd open him up to availability. So there was that. So I didn't get a one-on-one with him. I asked him about his time with really the Marlies, and who's maybe been a person that's tried to maybe not try and make him a leader, but like, who's someone in his life that's kind of led him to where he is today and has been
Right.
the person who showed him leadership and all that. And he really didn't say much. He was like, well, it's kind of like a thing that I just have it's come upon myself. And then a few days later, or maybe a week or two later, I asked him about COVID-19. That was probably not a good decision, because he was just like, I'm sick of talking about it. And I was like, damn, I asked a bad question.
You know
But
what
it
though,
was,
man? Yeah, I think every reporter's allowed to have a question like that where it's like, you know what?
But
You went for it. At least.
it's like, one thing I will say is it was a very raw, emotional answer back. And I think I just beat myself up too hard on like thinking that it was a bad question, when in reality, like, that was probably one of the best responses that any player has given me
Mm-hmm.
throughout this whole time covering them. And yeah, it might have been like he was upset with the question or something, but it was raw and it was an emotional one, and it was something that you don't get.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of hearing about Rich Clune and what the experiences have been like, I mean, he seems like he's a great person, for one. He seems like he's one of the hardest workers in that organization, even on the Leafs. For one, he's jacked. He's absolutely jacked.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, like, just hearing again, like, players say all good things and how he's a leader and how he's a great person in the dressing room. And even from Greg Moore, their head coach, he was like, when he presented him with the jersey and the captaincy, he was like, I didn't even know what words to say that would really mean like as much as I wanted it to mean for him. So,
Right.
I mean, he's just been a overall beast, and he's been somebody who's a great person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's what inspired me to ask the question about him, because typically you look at a guy like him and you can find an AHL tough guy. They're a dime a dozen across the league. Like, you could bring in different guys, but I think the fact that he's been in the Leafs organization longer than Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner have. So the way I see it, it's just like it must really speak volumes about him as a person and just what he's like his character and what that means to the younger guys in the dressing room. The fact that they keep bringing him back over and over.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. He's on the fourth line, but I don't think at this point in the organization and what they're thinking, I don't think they care about that. Even Kyle Dubas has said on multiple occasions the type of leadership he has, the type of person he is. And I think even though he doesn't have a big role within a game and what they do, he's a person who stands up for younger players. And in the AHL, you have a lot of younger players. So,
And a lot of goons.
yeah. So, I
So-
mean, exactly. I mean,
Yeah,
so
it's Sheldon Keefe and Kyle Dubas have said on a number of occasions that they're speaking about the Leafs when they say this, but they say that they're trying to build a dressing room full of leaders, right? And I
Yeah.
think that ultimately just starts from the ground up, because you've got guys on the Marlies who are going to be playing for the Leafs someday, and if you kind of instill that way of thinking and that way of culture into their brains from the very start, I think that's why having a guy like Rich Clune is so valuable, especially for the younger guys on the team.
And even
Yeah, it's
like,
huge.
there's a lot of leaders on that Marlies team as well. Like, Joey Anderson came in from New Jersey last season. He's part of their leadership group now. Adam Brooks, who's with the Leafs. Callie Rosen, Nick Patan. There's a lot of guys in that dressing room. I'm trying to think. There's one more person. I know
Marincin.
I'm forgetting who it is,
Marincin.
but no, not him. He's played in like 2 games. I've been so upset because I've barely got to see him. He just sits on the taxi squad.
Oh,
Oh,
the
there's one
Marlies
person.
taxi squad, not the Leafs.
are you
Marlies.
thinking Tyler Gaudette?
Yes.
Yeah, there
Him
you go.
Kenny
too.
Agostino.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, Kenny Agostino. Yeah, that's
Agostino
another
too.
one.
There's a lot. I mean, I could probably sit here and name the whole team, and they're a bunch of leaders. But
Heck, maybe even Timothy Liljegren too. He's been there for a while now.
yeah, I mean, he's the type of person that leads me to believe like he's more of a quiet leader. Like, he's
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
of like somebody who doesn't talk as much, but you can just tell like by
Kind of
the way
leads by
he
example.
plays. Yeah. So, I mean, again, there's a lot of guys on that team who are overall great people and just again, leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. So while we're on the topic of the Marlies, since you've actually had the chance to sit down and watch all of, if not most of, if not all the Marlies games this year, are there any prospects or players that you think are deserving of a call up that the casual fan may not have considered?
I don't know. Like, there's a few guys. I wouldn't say any prospects. Like, there's Nick Barden, there's Kenny Agostino, just like depth guys. But overall, like, I've got to see SDA Semyon Dargachintsev play.
How does he look?
He looks good. Like, he's not. I don't think he's. I know he's played in the KHL or wherever he played before, but he needs some time to get used to it. But he's been a guy who has been really, really good. And at times, like, you can still see that he's trying to adjust, and it might take another season in the AHL for him to do that. But like, he's pretty good. He's not ready for the NHL. I'd say really anyone who's deserving of a call up or anything like that. I don't even know if it's possible at this point with the cap and how close they are to it. But like Nick Barden, the poor guy has been going up and down for I think most of his career.
Yeah.
And I know I asked him one time about it after a game, and he did not like the question at all. I don't think he wants to talk about it. Like, I'm just thinking for him, it's frustrating to just keep staying. Like, he's producing over a point per game for the Marlies.
Yeah.
And him not being up with the Leafs, I mean, it sucks.
Mhm.
There's Kenny Agostino as well. Joey Anderson, he's, I think, played 1 or 2 games with the Leafs earlier on in the season. I think he was good with the Leafs, and I think he maybe should have stayed there. But other than that,
the one thing I have to say about Nick Barden, though, is like there's a common trend with management treating their minor league players like with the bottom 6 players on the Leafs. Like, if you can provide any value besides scoring to the Leafs, you've got to roll, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not scoring, what do you bring to the table? And Nick Barden is not big enough on the forecheck. He's not strong enough defensively. You don't really trust him with the PK, right? So it's like when you've got the 8 minutes of ice time, you better be utilizing that ice time as effectively as possible. And you're going to be paired up with Pierre Engvall sometimes and Jason Spezza sometimes. And you got to make sure that you use that ice time as effectively as possible. But if you don't, you're done. You're out of the lineup, right?
I mean, like Pierre Engvall did it. He got a 1-year deal or however many years on his contract.
But like he PKs though, and he's big on the forecheck. So yeah, that's the thing.
He's a big, like, Nick Barden's more of a smaller, skilled type of guy. And like when I watch him, like with the Marlies, you can tell that he doesn't. I wouldn't say he belongs. Like, it's so hard because I wouldn't say the NHL and AHL are such different leagues, but that gap is so hard to maintain and so hard to just be in the NHL consistently. But when you watch him in the AHL, you can just sit there and be like, he doesn't belong there. He's a skilled guy. He's really good with the puck, and
he belongs in the KHL.
I mean,
I kid.
I doubt he wants to ever go there in his lifetime.
Yeah.
But no, he's one of the guys who really, to me, I think goes under the radar, and people don't I wouldn't say understand his skill set and how good he can be, but he kind of, I don't know what I'm saying here, but he's
underrated.
For what it's worth, I think Barden has actually really made the most of his opportunities he's had in the NHL this year, albeit not too many of them. Like, I thought that he looked really good alongside Jason Spezza in that game where he got his hat trick against Vancouver. And I think that Nick Barden this year has been better than the NHL version of Nick Barden we've seen in years past. I think it's just he's in a tough situation because the Leafs have so many guys that they have so many guys that they owe chances to, right? Like Adam Brooks is getting a fair shot in the NHL. Well, I'm talking more like younger guys. Like,
oh, okay. True.
Yeah, like we saw Adam Brooks. He's getting a fair shot in the NHL right now. He's looked really good in his small sample size, in my opinion.
Yes.
So it's just it's a tough situation for Barden because I feel like if he wants a regular NHL job, he's got to do it on a team where he knows that he's got a permanent spot, because the Leafs just simply can't offer that. And we saw that they've just they've got so many guys they have to try out. Like, you could make the argument that they have like 7 lines worth of NHL talent, guys that could play in the NHL.
Yeah. I mean, that might be a lot
Maybe.
more. But I mean,
Bit of an
again,
exaggeration, maybe. But
they have a
6 for
lot of
sure.
guys. Yeah, 6. I mean, though, like for Nick Patan, it sucks, and like he should get an opportunity elsewhere. And I know he's frustrated. Maybe it's because he wants to stay in Canada. Maybe it's because he likes Toronto as well that he's staying there. But again, you know who doesn't have a fair shot right now, and one person who does deserve a Leafs call up is the obvious one, and he's on
Martin.
the Leafs, but he's not. No, not Martin Marincin.
Oh,
Timothy Liljegren.
no, yeah, I knew you were gonna say
yeah.
Liljegren there, but that's hilarious.
poor
that Mark
guy.
said Marincin. Yeah.
It's like, just
He's
because
so-
you have his jersey doesn't.
He for Liljegren, like for me, before seeing Rasmus Sandin in the last few games, I thought to myself, it looks like while watching Timothy Liljegren with the Marlies, to me, I was thinking it looks like Liljegren might be a little bit better than Sandin, just by the way he was playing. But now you see Sandin and what the heck he's doing in the NHL,
Yeah.
and I don't think that's the case. But when Kyle Dubas was like, "Oh, we see Nick Robertson and Rasmus with our team for a long time, and they're like the future," I was like, "What about Timothy Liljegren? What the heck did he do?" Like this year has been such a big season for him, just developing. He's a lot more offensively sound. He was always defensively good, but this year he's walking guys the blue line multiple times in a game. He's scoring. He's doing really everything he can. And then just the fact that he doesn't get an opportunity, it's frustrating to me just because you're watching him play so good. And then to hear Sheldon Keefe a few days ago, or maybe it was at the trade deadline, say that Rasmus Sandin and Ben Hutton were going to get a try, but not Timothy Liljegren.
Yeah.
It
is.
I don't know. It's
Okay,
frustrating.
I gotta say something about that though. I think it's not out of like a disciplinary reason. I think management probably views his time practicing with the Leafs more important than playing with the Marlies. Although we all say, I think we'd all agree that, yeah, Liljegren's a type of player where he needs the reps. He needs the time to play, right? He needs the 20 minutes. He needs the 25 minutes. But him developing with the Toronto Maple Leafs coaches, the coaching staff, may be viewed as better than him playing with the Marlies players. I'm not sure. I'm trying to just try and shoehorn it into a positive light. What do you think, Nick?
I think that I'm pretty sure Sheldon Keefe said, I think it was a few days ago, that he'd give Hutton and Sandin a try with Bogosian out. So, I mean, it's almost been 2 weeks that the Marlies haven't played any games. So really he's just sitting there, not like, I think it's good for him to be with the Marlies because you still get that opportunity to practice with the development staff, whether you're on the Leafs or the Marlies.
True.
Like they have days where they get to work with everyone there, and they've spoke about it, and they've had just days where they work development stuff, and then they have days where they practice. So I wouldn't say like it's better for him to be up with the Leafs because the development staff, I'd like to see him in games and really have him get going. And I don't, at this point, like I wanted him to play with the Marlies more until he gets a chance with the Leafs. And that might be next season when he's on the third pairing with Rasmus Sandin. But
well, because I think management views him and the position he plays as so fragile. They need to take as much care into his development as possible.
Yeah.
Right-handed defenseman who's two-way. Like you've got Brody, who is more defensive. He's kind of like that Stefan Robida kind of player. And then you've got Bogosian, who's more stay-at-home. He's a big bruiser. And then Justin Hall is kind of he's hard to describe, but like he's that big two-way guy. Whereas like Liljegren, he has more of a ceiling. He's already playing the top pairing minutes last year when he was 21. And Justin Hall was playing top pairing minutes when he was 25. right? So I think management is like, we have something special with this guy, and we need to be as careful as possible, because once we get him onto the Leafs playing meaningful minutes, because we can't play him 10 minutes, that's a waste of time. We need to just take it as carefully as possible, because once he starts producing for us and helping us, he's going to be amazing for us. He's really going to help the salary cap implications for them. And then just as a whole for his development, I think playing him like 15 plus minutes rather than 10, like Travis Dermott, I've never understood that this season. Like, if you're going to play him 10, why bother? Call up Sandin or something. I don't know. Call up Marincin. Call up Rosen. Like, Dermott, if like that, this season for a guy like Dermott was such a make or break season for me watching him. Like, it was like a lot of people were like, yeah, Dermott's top 4. Dermott is this, Dermott is that. And it's like, okay, he can be, he could be, he's got the tools, but let's see how he does. And now it's like, okay, I haven't seen him for a whole period now.
Yeah.
What's going on? Like, why not just trade him? What do you think?
And like going into this season when he signed his, I think it was a 1-year deal. It was like, it was sort of like he was betting on himself. And now,
and it failed. Oh,
I mean,
man.
I like, we all didn't know what was going to happen. Like, prior to the season, we didn't know that he'd be playing with Bogosian. And I'm going to say that, like, he did look really, really good in the last few games. I mean, last night he looked really good. He didn't look bad. I wouldn't say he looked really good, but like him playing with Sandin, I think it also gives him a chance on the right side to show how good he can be. But right now, I really think he's going to get claimed by Seattle in the expansion draft. It's either him or Hall.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say too. I don't think it's really much of a hot take. I might disagree with you there, Mark. I might be okay if Hall gets picked up, because the way I see it, we just finished talking about how for a guy like Timothy Liljegren, you need to give him regular minutes, right? And the thing is, and Nick, going back to what you said about how there was a time where maybe you debated, is he better than Rasmus Sandin? I don't think that's as much of a hot take as some people might say, because there was a time once upon a blue moon where he was supposed to go second overall after Nolan Patrick in 2017. And then Mono fucked his draft year up. And like the tools are there. He can be an effective top 4 defenseman, but like going back to why I said, like, I might lose Hall over Dermott. The way I see it, if your top 4 for the next couple of years is Brody's not going anywhere. We've got Brody in our top 4 for the next 4 years after this one. Not going to lose him there. And, you know, I hear people sometimes suggest bringing back Zach Bogosian, because Bogosian's had a good season this year. I think he's really stepped up and kind of exceeded most people's expectations. I know some people were comparing him to, like, saying he's the next Roman Polak. And the way I see it, like, we just finished talking about how Liljegren needs to have regular playing time to really develop. But if Justin Hall sticks around, where's he going to have that? Like, where's he going to get the opportunity to play top 4 minutes? I just don't see it happening if Hall sticks around.
I mean, if you think about it, I don't know whether or not Morgan Riley gets re-signed. You think he would, but you really don't know, because I don't know.
We're talking about that before you got on here.
I'm
not sure, man. I'm not sure if we keep him.
I plugged it earlier on in the show. I compared it to the whole situation with Colorado trading Tyson Barrie because they knew they had Cale Makar coming up on the right side. Like, it's not as much of a hot take as it used to be.
I know one thing I will say about it is, like, he's a big leader in that room too. And to me, I thought he should have been the captain before Tavares. And I was upset that he wasn't, because
that's a take.
He's went through thick and thin. He's went through everything. He's gone through all the playoff losses. He deserved, I think, that captaincy. And like, he's always one of the people who gets chosen when they have a bad game. And he's always one of the people who sits there and just says what they like. He'll give what like media wants to hear, and he will say what the Leafs need to do. And I just thought that he would have been a good leader. I'm not saying John Tavares isn't a good leader, because I'm sure he is. But at the same time, I was upset. And right now, when I'm thinking about Morgan Riley, I do think the Leafs want to keep him. I just think it's the fans who are like kind of hesitant, because he's gotten a lot worse defensively, or not, maybe not a
Yeah.
lot worse, but maybe we're
Yeah.
just seeing how good somebody can be beside TJ Brody.
You just took the words right out of my mouth. I said that right before you got on. I was like, I think maybe it just took Morgan Rielly being paired with someone who's actually good defensively to kind of expose some of his flaws.
But cover it up at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Like
I think the one thing I have to say about the captaincy, though, I think it would fall back down into a Dion Phaneuf situation. Like, there's so much pressure on that defensive spot, right? Where if you make that player the captain, there's just so much pressure to just do everything
Yeah.
for the team. Like John Tavares' role with the Leafs, albeit difficult, is kind of easy to fulfill because he's given Nylander, he's given Hyman, he's given Matthews, he's given Marner. Whereas Rielly is given an inconsistent Frederik Andersen. Let's face it, he is. And then defensive partners that we just haven't liked because they suck.
You
And
know, like Cody Ceci?
Well, like we
take this
didn't-
year's Cody Ceci.
Dude, we didn't even see what TJ Brody looked like before he came to the Leafs. We thought it was going to be another failed situation because, like, let's face it, Toronto is a shark tank. And at the first sign of blood, fans were already saying TJ Brody sucks. And it was like, okay, one game in, and we're already writing a defenseman off. And it was along with Zach Bogosian as well. Bogosian had 2 bad games, and then it was like, all right, this guy sucks. Our season's done. We'll see you next year. Thanks, Kyle. Get better players next year. But then Bogo's been fine. TJ Brody, he's been fine. Like, I don't know. It's weird, man.
There's a lot on Twitter when you said about like just how fans like just go after like 2 games. Oh my God, like
Man.
he's bad. It's so funny because you see there's a lot when Frederik Andersen was playing bad. Like I was probably one of the last people who sat there and was like, he's like, I still believe in him, and I still do to this day. I still think he'll come back. Like I'm sure they're giving him so much time to just figure out whatever he needs to figure out. And I'm sure like he'll come back and he'll want to show people who he is, and he'll want to prove that like he's good on a Leafs team.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is a hot take, but like he could be that. Like I know he's been playing bad and like in the last like few seasons and in the playoffs, but if he's coming back to try and prove himself, I don't think he's going to mess that opportunity up at this point because there's so much on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And if he wins a Stanley Cup with this team, like I don't know how you don't re-sign that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes down to like he's also got to have the contract in the back of his mind, right? Like if he comes back for the playoffs and if he keeps playing like he has earlier this season and doesn't impress at all, then you got to wonder what teams are going to value him at in free agency. So I'm sure he's got that in the back of his mind as well in terms of stepping up when he comes back. And to allude to what you said about how you were one of the last people to kind of criticize Freddie Andersen, I was in the same boat. Like I think a lot of Leaf fans are very, very quick to forget how many times Freddie Andersen bailed out the Leafs over the past over his entire tenure in Toronto. So while yes, you can look at him this year and say that there's obviously something wrong with him. He was obviously playing through some sort of injury. I don't ever want to hear people blatantly disrespecting Freddie Andersen and acting like he's just some guy that we need to sweep out the door, because he is I'm only 21 years old, but he is the first good goalie that I ever actually got to witness on the Leafs. And I'm not talking about flash in the pan good like Jonathan Bernier or James Reimer for a while. I'm talking like full on elite, like starting goalie. Like he's the first one that I ever had confidence in.
That goalie saying goes for all 3 of us. Goes for all 3 of us, man. Vesa Toskala, shitty. Andrew Raycroft, shitty.
Well, Nick, when did you start watching the Leafs? Because you're a couple years older than us, I think, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, I've watched them my entire life. Like I'll say I started really, really like watching every game in like 2017 or 2018.
Oh,
like
okay.
I would watch them. I just wasn't that invested because they weren't good.
It's hard to invest into a bad team. I don't blame you.
Like, I don't know how Steve did it for however long, I think 14 years so far. Like,
it's crazy.
but I mean, bless his soul, because he's been through everything. But
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of just, yeah, I mean, we've seen stinkers. Like what I remember, like right now, I'm remembering
Yes.
Vesatoskala, like
His goal.
allowing, that goal.
The goal.
I never like,
That's all I have to say. That goal.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I never really liked Jonathan Bernier. I like James Reimer because of the type of person he was.
Mm-hmm.
And although they messed up in that game 7 in 2013, those things happen. It's okay. I mean,
That
at
wasn't
the end of
even
the day,
him though.
it's-
That was Cody Franzen.
I don't even.
I think it
remember.
was I think it was the whole team, Mark.
Yeah.
I feel like just about everybody shit the bed that game 7. But you know, one of my takes on that game that I've had ever since the Leafs drafted Matthews is that as much as that game hurt at the time, if that game doesn't happen, if the Leafs advance to the second round, I don't believe they have Matthews or Marner right now.
The mental gymnastics that you had to go through for that take.
Well, dude,
You think so?
I don't absolutely, because the way I see it,
David
the Leafs
Clarkson
still
is why we have Austin Matthews.
The Leafs still tried to add after that pathetic first round collapse against Boston. They went out and got Dave Bolin that offseason. They got David Clarkson. Yeah, exactly. Like they went out and they kept trying to add to that team.
Gone, Grabowski gone, MacArthur gone.
And I think that had the Leafs actually made some noise in the playoffs that year, I think Leafs management and brass at the time would have been fooled into thinking that core was good enough to contend, even though let's face it, if that 2013 season was any longer than 48 games, I feel like the 18
they're not making the playoffs.
The 18 wheeler would have gone off the cliff before they got to the playoffs. They just
because like the Leafs, like I think their last 10 games, man, we're down the rabbit hole now. But the Leafs last 10 games in that season, I think they were like less than 500. They were starting to fall off.
That's what I'm saying. The 18 wheeler always happens in February, and I think had the Leafs made noise in the playoffs, they would have probably been fooled into thinking, yep, a core of Phil Kessel, Tyler Bozak, and Dion Phaneuf is good enough to carry us to the Stanley Cup. So we don't need to rebuild. This is good enough. So yeah, I think I don't think the Leafs would have Matthews and Marner if that game didn't happen. That's my hot take.
They would have had Patrick Laine.
Exactly.
It would have been just okay.
Or maybe Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Oh, dear.
Could you imagine?
Ollie Ulevi. That's what we would have.
Wow. So we just went on the tangents of all tangents right there, but I don't regret anything. I think it was a lot of fun. There's another Marlies related question I have here for you, Nick. So
yeah,
Rodion Amirov just inked his 3-year entry-level contract, but based on what Joshua Cloak of The Athletic said on the topic, it sounds like he's going to go back to Russia for one more year on loan before he comes over to North America. So if this holds true, do you agree with the decision, and do you think we'll see Amirov play for the Marlies at all before he makes the jump to the NHL?
One thing I will say is I don't know when they released like the press release of him signing, it said that he would come to Toronto and develop with the Leafs and Marlies for the rest of this year. And I don't know if that meant getting him into games or not, but it sounded like more of a sense that he might be getting into a game with the Marlies. But at this point, with the COVID situation, I don't know whether they might have said to him, hey, like, it's probably not the best idea that you come over. Just stay there. I have no idea. I'm just speculating.
Right.
But after next year, he might be good enough to be with the Leafs. You never know. I do see that if he's not where they're at, he either could stay in Russia or he could come to the Marlies. And if he comes to the Marlies, that'd be great for his development. But either way, I think it's good either way for him. Like, he's playing in the KHL against men. He's playing in the AHL against men. It's the same thing. And in reality, he might be good enough to be in the NHL. But there's not much I know in that sense. But he might be playing for the Marlies this season. He might not. We might get a look and see how good he really is. But again, I'm not sure on any of that.
Yeah, I would love to see Amirov with the Marlies this year. And one other thing I took away from that article is generally there's a bit of a trend among European teams, KHL, SHL, Liga, whatever. They're running their teams like professional sports teams. They're not running them like development teams. So it's very seldom that you see European teams kind of try and groom players like Amarov and kind of like prepare them for the NHL. Like they're in it to win it, right? So this year, Amarov really didn't get too much ice time. I think he was playing mostly fourth line minutes, especially down the stretch into the playoffs. But one thing his head coach did say in the interview with Josh Cloak is that should he come back to UFA next year, he's anticipating Amarov to work hard and earn top 6 minutes. So I think if he goes back to Russia, we might be able to get a look at what he does with top 6 minutes. And I think that would be huge for his development because, like I said, UFA doesn't care about grooming Amarov for the NHL.
No.
UFA just they want to win their KHL championship, and if Amarov's on the team, they're going to play him how they see him fitting in. So it was pretty encouraging to hear his coach kind of hints at maybe giving Amarov top 6 KHL minutes next year.
Yeah, he has a lot of potential, and I was stunned when I think it was Craig Button who put him. I don't know if it was third or second. I don't remember, but it was in front of Timothy Liljegren, and that was not okay.
Yeah, Liljegren I think was below Nick Abrazici or whatever that guy's name is.
Was.
So that was pretty tough look for Craig Button.
Take.
But I mean, he's again, like you said, like it might be better for him if he doesn't get top 6 minutes next season to come back to the Marlies because he'd instantly get it because Nick Robertson's not going to, I doubt he's going to play with the Marlies next season.
No.
SDA, I'm sure he will, but then he'll need a winger. And you have a Russian guy coming 2 years down the road. They might be good together. So, I mean, I'm not sure, but again, he'd be a good fit on the Marlies team. He'd be exciting.
Yeah. I know. I think it's I think eventually Kyle Dubas, especially with the amount of time that he spent managing the Marlies and everything, I think getting guys into that environment is a big step for just about any prospect. I think it's something they like to do with pretty much all their prospects, unless you get a guy like Matthews, who he's not going to play in the NHL or in the AHL. Having said that, I do think that a top 6 on the left side with Nick Robertson and Amarov is going to be a treat to watch eventually. I'm really looking forward to seeing those two guys stack up if Amarov lives up to his potential.
But what about Zach Hyman?
Well, Zach Hyman, honestly, man, like I think I would be happy to see him on the third line. He does really well with Matthews and Marner, and I it's hard for me to take him out of that position, but he's one of those guys where you can put him anywhere in the lineup and he'll impress.
Yeah, I'm really hoping going into the playoffs, whenever he gets back, I was thinking about whether or not he should be on the first line or have Nick Foligno go on the third line or vice versa. And if you have Foligno on that first line and Hyman on the third line, it makes that team so much deeper.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely nuts.
Yeah,
so,
I think the Leafs, that's the beauty of the Leafs this year, is they've just got so many options heading into the playoffs. Like they can try Hyman on the first line, Foligno on the third. If that doesn't work, they can swap. But either way, guys like Hyman and Foligno are so valuable because you can play them anywhere in the lineup and odds are they'll succeed or contribute in some way.
Yeah, 100%.
Do we go with the shutdown line though? Like, are we happy with that?
I'd consider a shutdown. Wait, when you say a shutdown line, do you mean Hyman and Foligno on the same line?
Yeah.
I don't think I would do that. I wouldn't do that.
No?
It would, sorry, go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to say, I think you place one of those guys on the first line, you still have, whether or not Engvall is good enough to play on that third line, we still have no idea. I don't know. I don't even know if I'm comfortable playing in there. But you also have Riley Nash coming in too. And I don't know how that third line is going to look, but if you have Mikheyev there on one side, you have Hyman on the other side, that's 2 dogs and they're going to go at it. And then you have one guy in the middle, and whether it's Engvall or Riley Nash, it's going to be a hard line to play against.
Yeah, I think that's the exact direction I was going into, Nick, is, I mean, let's be real. Imagining a checking line with both Hyman and Nick Foligno on it, it's enough to make a grown man cry, honestly. But at the same time, I think the Leafs have enough checking options where you could have a checking line that's almost as good, if I won't say better, but like almost as good as what Hyman and Foligno would do on that third line. Like I'm more than okay having a third checking line of, say, Foligno, Riley Nash, and Mikheyev. Like that's still one of the better checking lines in the league, I think. Or you could throw Kerfoot in there. He's pretty solid defensively. I think I'm really looking forward to seeing what Sheldon does with these lines heading into the playoffs.
I'm interested to see whether or not Kerfoot and Engvall make the lineup.
That's you know what? Engvall I could see getting sat, but I don't know. I have a hard time believing they're going to leave Kerfoot out of the lineup.
I don't know. You think about it. The first line is Foligno, Matthews, Marner. The second line would be Galchenyuk, Tavares, Marner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you forget about him. I forgot about him. Then Hyman, Riley Nash, and then you have who's Mikheyev, or vice versa.
Holy
and then you got the three vets. You got Jumbo, Spezza, and Simmons.
Exactly.
So,
like where are they gonna? And Wayne Simmons is playing out of his mind right now.
Yeah.
So is Joe Thornton, and you
Yeah.
have a fourth line who's gonna roll over other guys,
Yeah.
and then you have Jason Spezza who just rips shots.
Yeah.
Like I love Alexander Kerfoot, but at the same time,
He's getting
like
traded.
yeah, that, and I just don't think he. To me, it feels like him and Nick Robertson. I mean, Nick Robertson has played great, and I'm not going to say any bad things about him because he was, when he played, I thought he's played a lot better in the NHL with his opportunities than he did in the AHL. But those two guys, maybe not Nick Robertson, but it just seems like Kerfoot always gets beat off the puck. It always seems like he gets it, and he either dishes it out to somebody else. It doesn't seem like his speed is still as good as it was maybe when they did trade him. I don't know if that's just me seeing that or not. But again, he gets checked off the puck so easily and he loses it, and then they come the other way. And it's like you could have Wayne Simmons there. And I know Wayne Simmons hasn't been playing the best at all the times he's been in, but right now, and this could be recency bias, but he's been good.
I've actually got an article coming out in a little bit on that exact topic, on why you can say what you want about Jumbo's offensive production this year and Simmons' offensive production, but games like the two against Winnipeg on Thursday and Saturday are the exact reason why those guys will not leave the lineup in the playoffs.
No, absolutely not.
You need to have guys like that in, hands down.
Exactly.
Especially if you find them getting matched up against the Jets in the second round, like that's
Yeah,
man.
and then
So
he drops
one
the gloves
thing-
with Nikolai Ehlers.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, on my bingo card of potential rivalries in the in the Canadian division, I never once crossed my mind that it would be Joe Thornton and Nick Ehlers, but I'm here for it.
One thing I wanted to ask you guys though is like a top six of like Jumbo, Matthews, Marner, and then Hyman, Tavares, Nylander, and then the bottom six you got like Hyman or you get Foligno, like just a combination of those guys. Like what do you think of like putting Joe back into the top six so you can have like Galchenyuk and Foligno into the bottom six just to kind of not so much a shutdown line, but like a shutdown bottom six sort of thing. What do you guys think about that?
I'll let you go first, Nick.
Well, for me, I think watching Galchenyuk with the Marlies, he thrives when he plays with good players. And if you put him down with Pierre Engvall and Ilya Mikheyev, I mean, Mikheyev's good. Engvall is okay. I don't think he thrives.
Engvall is Engvall.
Yeah, I don't think he thrives in a way that he would with Tavares and Nylander. Like, he's so good at getting the puck to those guys and setting them up for opportunities. And you see him have that role, and it looks like he wants that role and he wants to keep it. He's playing out of his mind as well. He's being another dog of that line. And I think that if you push him farther down and bring Thornton back up, like, yeah, it might be good in reality when you think about it, but it doesn't make the team deeper when you bring Thornton up. Like, he's been good and he's thrown his body around and he's playing that type of role that is shut down and the dog guy of the team, and he's willing to break sticks across people and go get another one and go do it again. So, I mean, I think he's fitting really well in the role that he has. And just to bring him back up with Matthews and Marner, I don't know if it fits the style of that line, because you'd have Foligno's there right now. So, and even him, like, I don't think he fits that line, but it's just like levels. Like, you have Foligno on that line. He's making it tough on other players. Like, he's throwing hits and big hits too. and he's a part of that line, and it makes it tough. Yeah, he's not producing, but he's just being able to bring certain things to the table, and then that sets up Mitch Marner to maybe get a little bit angry, and Austin Matthews. And we know Austin Matthews, when he gets angry, he's throwing his body around too. So, I mean, I don't think I like bringing Joe Thornton back up and putting Galchenyuk back below, just because, again, it brings Galchenyuk. He might not be happy with the demotion, and then he might not play as good. So,
yeah, I agree with you, Nick. I think it's one of those things where it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I do like. I mean, Thornton looks pretty good when he's on that top line with Matthews and Marner, but I don't see him being there long term down the stretch and having his legs be able to keep up with him playing on the first line in this division. And I think on the Galchenyuk front, like Nick said, I think he's one of those guys where if he's not going to be playing in the top 6, he's probably going to be benched, because we saw he was on Ottawa's third, fourth line for most of the year in his time in Ottawa, and he did nothing.
For his 8 games?
Yeah, he put up 1 goal in 8 games playing on the fourth line, and he doesn't have the defensive game to really justify playing him in the bottom 6. You could throw him if you're trying to get like a speed line out of the third line. Sure, you could try him there, but I think he'll be in the top 6 or benched come playoffs. It's going to come down to those two.
It's sort of like Nick Robertson as well, because he's better with better players. I don't think he's at the point where he's ready to be on a fourth line or third line. I think that if he's with Tavares and Nylander, he fits and he's good. And even in the AHL, like he was, I didn't really like him in the AHL. Like he wasn't, obviously he was injured for a while, but he wasn't fit for that type of play style. Like it's in the AHL, it's all like big hits, and they have a lot of bigger guys, and it's not as fast, and he might not be used to it, but he was getting beat off the puck so easily. But in the NHL, he's being able to rub off on guys when they go to hit him, and he's able to make opportunities. But with him, he's sort of like Galchenyuk in the terms of, if he's not playing with better players, there's really no sense of putting him on the ice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
That's fair. I like that.
Right on. Well, those are all the questions that I had for you, Nick. We won't take too much more of your time here. Mark, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to wrap up with.
Well, no, I want to say good luck with the writing. I really enjoy the content that you make. I think it's cool.
Thank you. I mean, it's fun. I beat myself up a lot because I don't have, like, I write weekly Marlie stories, but I wanted to bring a lot more to the table. And obviously it's so hard with a season like this, but
yeah, give you a season under normal circumstances, we'll be seeing a whole different version.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
You never know. I mean, maybe not. I hope so.
Yeah. We're in your corner if it ever comes to that. So, Nick, thanks a lot for taking time out of your dates. Join us. It was a great chat, and we're looking forward to having you back on soon.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Take it easy. Enjoy the rest.
Thanks for
of your
coming
day.
on.
No worries. Take care, guys.
See you, man.
Leafs,
NHL,
rumors,
prospects,
banter,
and everything in between.
This is the Shanaclan Podcast
with Hobbs
and Lugsy.